Clayton.
Thank you, Juliet. Well, we may be fighting the war against terror in Iraq and Afghanistan, but the new frontier for radical Islam may be where we least expect it, inside the U.S. military. Two very high-profile cases are shedding some light on how American troops struggling with their religious views and their allegiance to our country at the same time. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy and a former United States Navy lieutenant. He joins us live from Phoenix this morning. Doctor, nice to see you this morning. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Clayton. It's nice to be with you.
A piece you wrote in the Wall Street Journal this week points out that the military becoming ground zero, as you say, for Muslim Americans in this ideological struggle. Why is that?
Well, because this is, many of us, the vast majority of Muslims have served proudly, and I had never had a conflict between my faith and being Muslim and serving as an Orthodox Muslim in the military. But at the end of the day, since we're fighting wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and these cases point to individuals that slid down a radicalization, Abdo now has come to national attention because they found explosives, etc. But a year and a half ago, he filed for conscientious objection status. He started to have this grievance mill where he wanted people to basically take on his case that he was a conscientious objector, when in fact that should have been a sign that he was leading towards Islamism, this global mentality that America is against them, that America is anti-Muslim, anti-Islamic.
Right.
And rather than deal with that ideology, the Assistant Secretary of the Army gave him conscientious objection status. That was foolish. We need to have a moratorium against that and begin to use this as teaching points on fighting the ideology.
Let's take a look at that for our viewers who aren't familiar with what conscientious objector is. Apart from being difficult to say, it means this: an individual who has claimed the right to refuse to perform military service on the grounds of freedom of thought, conscience, or religion. I'm a little confused, Doctor, because the current face, at least over the past decade or more, is of radical jihad, radical Islam in the world. That's the face of our wars in the United States right now. We're not facing a Cold War against the Soviet Union any longer. So when you voluntarily go into the military to defend the patriotism of the United States and defend the freedoms we believe in here, don't you know what you're getting into?
Absolutely. When I saw 9/11 happen, I wanted to line up and say, let me be the first one to get Al-Qaeda, and that's the vast majority of Muslims in America, what they would want to do. But this guy and many of these people that get into this, they're part of this Islamist mindset that they're part of the global Muslim community, and they don't want to do that. Conscientious objection is reserved purely for people that are basically pacifists, that don't want to serve in any army, any military, and any war. To say that you can pick and choose actually is not what conscientious objection is. This guy should have been run down the UCMJ as a traitor, and basically that's what we should have done. But you know, the after-action report, Clayton, on Fort Hood didn't even use the word Islamism, jihad, or any of this. So we learned nothing.
Correct?
We couldn't even... we couldn't even identify the ideology. And I mean, look at the Cold War. We had a the military should be the laboratory where we're able to filter those that have ideologies that are in conflict, so that we know that our armed service men and women are 100% on board of being patriotic and wanting to follow orders. But we need to have that filter. In the Cold War, we had it for those leaning towards communist ideology. Right. And in this war today, with a quarter of the world's population being Muslim, we need to have a better filter. And our Armed Services Committee in the House and the Senate needs to start investigating clearly the difference between theopolitical Islamism and the spiritual faith of Islam that most of us practice and believe in.
Dr. Jasser, great stuff this morning. We appreciate you coming on. As you say, Muslim servicemen and women need to speak up about some of these ideological struggles. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Read his piece in the Wall Street Journal. Great piece. Coming up here on the show, breaking news on Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, a spokesperson revealing what just happened days before her historic return to Congress.